Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Critical Twits Gaming Podcast, where today we will be asking, what the fuck, Games Workshop? Yes, welcome to episode 36 of the Critical Twits Gaming Podcast. WTF-GW.
Acronyms.
Lovely acronyms. It's the internet age. Everything's an acronym now.
What does that stand for?
A crazy reduction of the noises you make. An acronym. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
A crazy reduction of noises you make.
Yeah.
Acronym. Yes, so today we are going to be discussing the behemoth that is the wargaming company Games Workshop.
Indeed.
What used to be this giant lumbering titan of a company that now seems to have a bit of a limp.
Yeah, I mean it's been odd because we do a gaming podcast. We talk about tabletop games, which obviously they do. We talk about miniatures that they do. We talk about role-playing games that they do. We talk about video games that they do. Yet we haven't touched on Games Workshop up until now.
No.
And that is not through ignorance. No, not at all. In fact, I would say we have... What's the opposite of ignorance?
Tentativeness?
No. Well,
it's not the opposite of ignorance
is knowledge. Wisdom is the opposite.
And I think that's we've been wise in avoiding it.
We are awash in Games Workshop wisdom.
Have we introduced ourselves today?
No, not at all. Cool.
Right, I'm Joe.
We did it in a different order. Now my brain hurts.
Yes.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Aaron.
We all know quite a lot about Games Workshop, and we're going to explain our sort of history with it. What we were looking at, I suppose, my reasons for wanting to do this, I kind of wanted my enthusiasm rekindled. I'm now old, officially. I was hoping to go into Games Workshop today, after a long absence, and have my enthusiasm for their worlds, their products, their models, their games, in some way reignited.
Yeah.
We met through Games Workshop.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to start. We're going to look at, first of all, sort of the way they do business now compared to how they used to, the way things have changed regarding what they do.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk specifically about what they do at the moment. Starting with that, I know Joe through Games Workshop. If it wasn't for Games Workshop, I wouldn't know Joe. I know Colin through Games Workshop.
Yeah.
Do you know Colin through Games Workshop, Joe?
Yeah.
James
and Rob.
James and Rob, friends of podcast, who have joined us on several occasions and have gamed with us on many, many more. We just we don't record everything we do.
Madness.
Girls got to have some privacy.
As do the geeks.
Yes. I know most of my adult friends from my time playing Games Workshop, actually.
Yeah.
So much so, when I was 18, I got a job working in Games Workshop. I stayed there for 7.5 years, rising like so much spoiled cream to the prestigious rank of store manager, or squad leader as it was known. Ooh. Yes, because they had a really weird culture where everything was named after stuff in the game.
Are you sure it was culture and not cult?
No, there was more yoghurt, less praying.
Okay.
Yoghurt puns. That was bacteriological. I'm now several years older than that, so it's been over half a decade since I left. I haven't really played any of their games. I've bought stuff, which I've then sold on to other people when the rush of enthusiasm has died.
Yeah.
Up until very recently, I had been Games Workshop free for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Joe, what about yourself?
I have never worked for them. I've always been I was going to say fairly avid hobbyist, but that's a lie. I've always been really keen on playing competitive games, and it was a nice outlet for that because I'm quite good at tabletop strategy and stuff. Yeah, we met through that. I remember we met before you were employed.
Yeah,
you were stood in front of the Eldar stuff I was trying to look at the time.
Yes, and now tell everyone at home the story of how we met.
Okay. I wanted to look I think I was trying to. I think I was trying to find Morgan Ra, and you were stood there with your girlfriend at the time, discussing how if you rubbed them long enough, men could make their nipples lactate. This might be the first time Aaron has heard this story.
No, I just really like it.
Yeah, this is genuinely my first ever impression of Brian, and we have been friends since.
Yeah, there was
through many lactations.
There's something about that story that obviously appealed to Joe, and it is scientifically backed up knowledge. If you look this up on the internet, first of all, I think it's Control-Shift-P opens up private browsing, but then if you were to research the lactating of men's nipples, yes, it is something that can happen.
So yeah, I've been playing the game, or have been playing the game for years. I think I'm, a fair few years free of it now.
Yeah.
Until the fateful day when the Twits dragged me into a shop. Yeah, I've not even used their paints or anything recently, so I found other more interesting games, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Aaron, what's your Games Workshop junkies log?
Well, it's been probably about 10 years since I last properly touched anything at Games Workshop, apart from the occasional fondling of a Space Marine now and then when I miss the models.
Ken parts.
One of the few Games Workshop models not to wear some kind of weird flappy loincloth to avoid them having to sculpt
Unless they were Dark Angels.
Yeah.
And then they all wear dresses.
Yes.
But I started off with Warhammer Quest more than anything else, because it was a nice game for my dad to play with me and my sister, sort of light role play type thing.
Yeah, how old were you playing Warhammer Quest?
I must have been 9, 10 maybe.
Because you're almost exactly the same age as me.
Yeah.
Did you have a first game? What was your first Games Workshop game, Brian?
My first Games Workshop game was 40k, second edition. Sorry, Warhammer 40,000 for the uninitiated. Well done for getting this far in. Alongside the Dark Millennium expansion, which came with 4 trees worth of cardboard, with all the psychic powers, vortex grenades, and data cards for vehicles that you could shake a stick at, blow a potato towards, and gently rotate a sparrow nearby. Shake a stick at's a really weird phrase. I've only just twigged. That genuinely wasn't it, mate?
Interesting branch of conversation, Brian. Yes.
Yeah, 40k. Swiftly followed by Necromunda, which I played a bit at the time. I got into it just after they stopped selling Warhammer Quest. I managed to play a couple of games of it with a friend of mine when I was about 10, 11, and it was been like my big grail game, like that game that you always wanted to pick back up or find, but has been ridiculous in cost as opposed to demeanour for a long time. And we'll talk about my reaction to the new Warhammer Quest in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, my first game was different, actually. It was Space Crusade.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was my holy grail gaming, actually.
Yeah, I had a copy of Space Crusade that no one would play with me.
Was it Space Crusade where they had the missile launcher that looked like some kind of pitted testicle thing?
Yeah. And you could take the weapons off and clip them on depending what you would... Because everyone was stood in a position that no one else can see. Your standard Space Marine pose, you should all know what I mean. And they had pegs that you could pull the guns in and click them on. Yeah. And the weird dreadnought that looked like it came out of the RoboCop film.
Yes, yeah.
So I had that initially, the birthplace of the Necrons, I believe. That was the first place you ever saw a Necron.
And how old were you at the time, Joe?
God, probably 7 or 8.
Me thinking back now to sort of being the age I was then, it was over 20 years ago. Apart from a 2-year gap between the ages of 15 and 17, where I discovered goth women and angry music. Although I did change to angry women and goth music for a bit in there and then swap back. I then was a hobbyist, as Games Workshop terms its customers, for about 16 years. So we're talking about, between the three of us, a lot of association with Games Workshop.
Longer than most drug addictions.
Yeah, it's
statistically longer than most marriages these days as well.
And it felt harder to break. than both a drug addiction and a marriage. Between us, we've all had a ridiculous amount of exposure to the hobby.
Yes.
A lot of mine was going into the local store, playing games, looking at new models, talking to people about armies. You know, it was a big social thing for fairly socially inept geek.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
It was very much a hobby centre.
It was.
It was a place you went to talk about, to experience, to play, to whatever your hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting as well to note is that Peterborough was your shop of choice as well, wasn't it? So we're talking about the exact same store that's been in the exact same place for all of this time.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's the store itself has changed dramatically from what I remember.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
As has Games Workshop, the company.
Very much so.
And I feel one reflects the other.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's quite an interesting time to be looking at Games Workshop. They have recently massively revamped their signature line. Most people know Games Workshop through Warhammer, to the point where people would ask when you were a kid, what do you do? And you wouldn't say, I collect Games Workshop. You'd say, I collect Warhammer, or I play Warhammer. But, I mean, it got its start from what people wanting to use fantasy miniatures that Games Workshop were importing and making themselves in battles. So Fantasy Battle was the first thing, then later abbreviated to just Warhammer. And now Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and they've kind of scrubbed the timeline. We're going to get into Age of Sigmar in more detail in a bit, but just to give people a bit of context.
Not scrub the timeline.
No, but they've moved it into a new setting.
Kind of,
yeah.
They've done a reboot.
Essentially.
Yes, they've done and it's, to me, it seems quite a drastic reboot.
Yes.
And it has been well received by some and very poorly received by
many
others. But I'm always intrigued as to the difference between the silent majority and the whinging minority, and just to where people really sit. What's also been really interesting is, in terms of sort of tie-in other media rather than just the tabletop games that they produce and sell in their stores, such as the video games and that kind of thing, as opposed to just what they sell in the stores. The last 2 years have seen a massive explosion in Games Workshop related intellectual property being used for other things.
Yes.
There are Fantasy Flight now make all sorts of board games and collectible card games. And there have been, anyone know how many GW related games, Games Workshop related games, video games I'm thinking specifically here, have been released in the last 2 years? Just 2 years. 2 years worth of games.
Because in the last 2 years their rights have changed. What they did before was sell it to a company and sell all their rights to that, where now they're selling little bits of it to loads of companies. I'm actually going to say around the range from about 25 to 30.
I don't think it's that high, but I think that might be
mobile games and stuff in this.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
This is the product of 2 minutes research on the internet, so numbers may vary slightly.
I would say between 10 and 20 myself.
If you include what's coming out later this year, you're bang on 20. What's come out already, 16. And I think this is indicative of what seems to me to be a lack of joined up thinking in the company. And this is where I think we're going to start to sort of turn slightly. Warhammer no longer takes place in the old world.
No.
With its 30 plus years of background, of history, of its fairly recognisable creatures and monsters and races.
They're still there to a certain extent.
They are a bit.
I also think claiming 30 plus years of background and history is a little bit stretched.
Yeah.
Because, it's been going for 30 years.
They didn't do anything.
But honestly, there have been 1 or 2 big events that even then didn't really change the landscape of the world.
It doesn't move on. It doesn't go, we've got 30 years and that means 300 years have passed. But what they do is they build outwards. So you start with the old world where the people live, and then they add on the Tomb Kings, they add on the Skaven who live underneath, they add on the Chaos Marauders from the north, they add on the Tale of the Elves and the 2 different warring elf factions. So they build it broad. It's not necessarily deep. There's not a lot of 400 years worth of gamer played conflict in there, but it's a huge world with a lot of detail to it.
when you go, there's 30 years of stuff
You expect
I expect change.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's from other games or
their
directly
direction now, maybe.
like directly contrast. I always look towards War Machine
Yeah.
because they have, every time a book releases, the story progresses. People die, stuff occurs, cities change hands. You know, to me, that's progressive story, and it's one of the things that felt really stale about Games Workshop IPs in general.
Yeah, they stayed the same. They didn't develop so that the character that you bought is the character you bought, and he doesn't die, and then you can't use him anymore.
Tycho died.
Yeah,
no
you
one
can still,
cared.
you can still use him.
But to the point where we went in the store today, and I'll use Warhammer 40k as the example one for this. That felt exactly the same as when I left it. I don't feel any different. Or anything.
There were a lot more big models.
That was
about it.
But yeah, because I specifically said, you know, what's changed? What's new? Because last time there was this big crusade, and again they got really close to getting to the place they wanted to, and then everyone kind of just went home, and they went, oh, we've done lots of heresy stuff. We went into the past.
Yeah.
Like
their IPs seem to sit as they build them outwards. They add more stuff to it. They bring more stuff into the perimeter, but things don't develop. The only thing I can remember them doing that really changed the landscape of Warhammer 40,000 is, and this is a long time ago now, they took the squats out. And people lost their minds.
Oh, they did. They introduced the Tau and kind of went, oh, this bit of the map's got some people.
Yeah, this is where they're building outwards.
Again, that's outwards. And I think the thing that, if they just sat there and went, yeah, we're building outwards and we're adding stuff and just tough shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That wouldn't bother me. But what they do, and this is key for me, is they advertise and they build up and they make these massive summer campaigns they used to do every other year. They'd rotate between systems, and the 13th Black Crusade was pegged as this massive world universe changing event, and fuck all changed. It finished and Abaddon went home.
Now what they did with Warhammer, as Aaron will explain, is actually do what you wanted and change things.
Yes, they set up the Apocalypse over a course of 4 campaigns, I think they explained it to me. As of 4 books, where essentially over the course of these campaigns, the old gods became resurrected and came into power a bit and destroyed the entire world.
Cool.
Kind of. What they basically... Well, no, not kind of. They have destroyed the world. Magic doesn't have the hold on the world anymore. It can't form it into a shape. And so now there are 9 planes in existence. One of which is Sigmar's, which is what's the Age of Sigmar, because he's the one who first reawoken as this thing, resurrected these Stormbringers, who are the souls of some of the people that should have been going to Nagash and things like that, to resurrect an army, to be able to try and help the plight of the Order to bring things back. And then each of the other planes have got different allegiances and different remnants of the species left on them.
Okay.
Which is quite interesting. The world has changed completely in that.
Yeah.
And what they're doing with the summer campaigns in this is they're having one of these planes essentially go against another or some cities. I can't quite remember the details.
Is this where I did overhear them talking about currently it's the plane of life and the plane of death that are fighting?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And depending on which... Essentially, there's Order and there's Chaos as 2 factions, with Death and Destruction kind of as neutral factions on either side. Any species within Order can be used within itself and can actually call people from Death and Destruction to help, because that's part of Order as well. And the same with Chaos. Depending on which faction wins in these campaign systems they're running over the summer, depends on how the campaign books they're writing currently are going to alter for this one and the next one. They are actually altering the world depending on how the outcome of this campaign goes. So they have taken some of that stuff on board.
Given that the end times was such a big change for their world, I'd be willing to take them at their word that they will include some kind of consequence.
It's just that's promises they have made and failed on before. The outcome of these games, the outcome of this will change what happens, but nothing did. Now, don't get me wrong, that was different. The Eye, was it the Eye of... No, it wasn't the Eye of Terror. There was Storm of Chaos or something was one of the big campaigns, I think.
No, there was an Eye of Terror based campaign.
Wasn't that 40k, the Eye of Terror?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so... They had this big campaign, and again, like at the end of it, like Grimgor Ironhide walked up to Archaon and just bopped him over the head and knocked him out, and then walked off. And again, nothing happened. And there was this big thing of going, all your games matter, everything will change. What happens? And again, nothing did. So I love the optimism, but I would very much struggle to believe that they've not just gone, it'll matter, and actually they're not.
Potentially, but because it's such a new system, they can take that risk a bit easier now, rather than upsetting balances and things like that.
Yeah.
Now this sounds lovely. This whole new world. Aaron's quite keen and interested in the idea of these different planes of existence. It's slightly different. It's a bit unusual rather than a world that looks a bit like our world with the map turned upside down, which is what it really was.
Middle Earth.
Essentially, it's got this potential. But what they've done at the same time is, and this I find highly odd, is this they've unleashed all this additional IP. So there's approaching nearly sort of 9-10 games set in the Warhammer world, including something that people have wanted for years. I know, sort of talking to gamers and hobbyists, Warhammer Total War.
Yes.
I would expect that game, but I assume it's selling like cakes in a cold,
cakeless barren wasteland.
Yes. Yeah. For me, seeing Vermintide, which I didn't actually get around to playing but looked quite interesting.
It was. I had a quick game on the free weekend. It was very, very good.
They've done a Mordheim-based video game based on the old skirmish game Mordheim, which I bought when I was 15 and absolutely loved.
Yeah, I'm still quite interested to actually try this at some point.
This rush of IP has made me interested in Games Workshop again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily in Warhammer 40,000 because it's the same.
Yep.
But they're really pushing. They've got some big games coming out soon. So you go into your shop. You've just played Warhammer Total War. You've gone, I really like my Empire army. I want to make my Empire army. I want to paint it. I want to get back into Games Workshop. Or I'm 12. I've played this computer game. Let's go see what these miniatures and whatnot that it's based on is all about. And you are told that none of that really exists, but it kind of does, but it doesn't. It's a bit different on a different world, but it's the same, but it's okay, but no.
Some of the army stuff does still exist, some of it doesn't. This is an issue with how they've split the stuff down the middle. Yeah. In essence, they seem to have gone down, right, this is our video game. Well, it's not even their video game department, they don't have that. And this is what we're doing in the store. What they've done is the thing they had with the video games in the past, which was there to sell the games and bring you into the shop and things, was great. But the companies they sold it to had, in essence, monopolies over those IPs. Yeah. Not all the games they produced were that great over those IPs.
I believe, because I used to care about this shit, that a lot of it was actually because Games Workshop were very strict about what they could and couldn't do.
Yes.
Games Workshop used to sell the license exclusively to one place.
Yeah. And but then they'd also say, but you must do this, this and this within that.
Strict terms. Now they're slicing off or keeping things very open.
Yeah. Now you've got companies like Creative Assembly who brought out Warhammer Total War, who have probably about the same age as we are, maybe a little bit older, and have gone, I love this IP, we've got it now, we're going to create something that I remember from my childhood, it'd be great. And there's been loads of little companies, smaller companies that have done the same thing.
Yeah, and they've allowed them to take bits rather than keeping it just with, say, THQ, who had the exclusive 40k license.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they've taken their hands off a little.
Why not make this Age of Sigmar, though? Why go, use the old stuff? Why not try and tie this into... Because people would still buy Warhammer Total War if it was Age of Sigmar. I don't think people would go, I'm not buying it because it's this new thing. I mean, it wouldn't affect me because it's a video game.
Yeah.
And that might actually then be a really good way of introducing people to the new world.
It's because of that. It's because they've taken their hands off, in essence. Because having their hands on didn't work too well last time. So what they've gone is a very hands off approach, and I hope that'll do something. And it has worked, but not for the shop.
No, that's it.
It's worked for that side of things. It's not worked for the other.
Which
is a shame.
Is it just a case you think they're just aiming for the money? They go, right, for this amount of money or this percentage, you do what you like with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just a revenue thing, and they're keeping it very separate. Whereas before, maybe there was an attempt to sort of tie and use one to attract to the other, and vice versa, and try and cross-fertilise your audiences. Oh God, I sound like a business wanker.
You do,
that's
but
exactly
I
what
think that's it. I think that's exactly the route they were going, and I think nowadays, you're right. It's ways of them increasing revenue because they've had massive hits recently.
Yeah, and they've also had a lot of shit. But that shit hasn't cost them that much. In fact, it probably hasn't cost them anything at all. They've probably still got some revenue from that.
From the games that have been a bit poo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where, for me, they don't do things the way I would do. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a business wanker of high regard.
You're a business wanker of low regard.
Yes, I am. I'm more of an armchair business wanker.
Backseat business wanker?
But, I used to run one of their shops. I used to talk to hobbyists for 8 hours a day, 4 days a week. No one came in on a Tuesday. And they have a very strange approach to what they do. It's not the only thing about their model that bugs me.
Yes.
And if they're just trying to throw stuff out there and try and make some money, and maybe it'll draw a few people in and get them interested in stuff, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Trying to almost sort of scattergun, see what sticks, see what works, see what doesn't. You risk devaluing your brand, of course.
Yes.
Too many shit games, no one will buy the good ones. Everyone will associate your brand with shit games.
Yeah.
Pulling back onto what you said, like when you've got that experience of managing a store.
Yes.
Now, my experiences of being a customer in these stores has varied. No, it's not varied. It was very consistent for a long, long time, and then recently has changed.
Okay.
I remember when I was young going in and going, oh look, there's all of these tables set up for gaming, and there's people playing games, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And then they went weird and went, you're not allowed to play specialist games anymore. And everyone went, oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Dicks. We'll just play 40k then. And again, but there were still people going in the store and playing games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember there during summers of you try and go in there on a half term. Jesus, you'd lose an arm. There were kids everywhere playing games, running around, bleeding, all the stuff kids do.
Okay, so what's changed then? Apart from the fact that you're pushing 30 and life is different now. Because we do have to be aware that our perception
but my ability to perceive people in a shop hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Now, you go in a shop now and there were 5 people in the shop apart from us, not including staff when we went in today. And do you know what? That is the busiest I've seen it in 2 years.
Now, we're talking about one particular shop. And one shop is not the barometer of...
but...
a whole company.
Nor is it the time we got midweek sort of thing during school times of things.
Do you guys used to do the thing and you go to a new city?
Yeah.
And you'd go in, if you saw their Games Workshop,
you would go in.
You'd pop into their Games Workshop to see what was different.
Yes.
To look at the models they had painted in the cabinet, because they'd be different to the ones in your shop because they were done by their staff. I mean, I still do. If I see a Games Workshop, I'll still pop in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been in the last year and a bit. I've been in Leicester, Nottingham, and Cambridge.
And I've been the one in Lincoln.
And the one that's in like a weird underground bunker in Covent Garden. It's really weird in there.
Well, it's not been particularly recent. I've got fond memories of the 2 shops I've been in with any sort of frequency apart from ours was the one in Stoke-on-Trent.
Yep.
And again, the Cambridge store I've been in a couple of times.
Yeah.
Each store is very individual and it's weird.
Yeah, none of them seem to be saying to me, this is a successful thing.
No.
They seem to be very, very quiet. Yeah, there's just a general sort of flatness to them that maybe it's the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia.
Potentially. I do remember when I was a kid, because I didn't go in there very often, but when my friend Zid used to go in there, it was a lot busier. I remember playing Warhammer games, the fantasy one, where there were so many of us in the store that we'd control a squad each.
Yeah, and you'd have 30 people around a table and there'd be a massive game going on.
Yeah.
I have a fond memory of my infiltrated scout unit shooting down a Dark Elder Ranger and most of the people... and most of the people in it dying horribly and kind of going, ha-ha, victory, and then achieving nothing else that game. But, I was happy I did a thing.
Games Workshop is really good for violent, murderous childhood memories.
Yes, it is. And one's about male lactation.
We went into a store today.
Yeah.
We've done some research. See, don't get this on one of those other podcasts. I was astounded to see 2 proper gaming tables in the store.
Yes.
Because at one point, all the stores seemed to throw out their gaming tables because having people playing games in the store somehow stopped you making money. I'm not quite sure on that. And there were people playing a game in the shop and having fun.
2 games going simultaneously, Brian.
And that's great. Surely to have the hobby being played in the store for atmosphere, for community, for something other than just some lonely person sat there waiting for you to come in so they can try and sell you something.
Yeah. I mean,
it's odd. It's very odd.
This is the change I noticed. I remember going from the days of, I've just bought this thing and stuck it together, so I'm going to use it, to them saying, no, you can't play with unpainted models in the store.
Yeah.
To, we've only got one gaming table, you have to book a time. To, no, we'd rather you set up your own clubs and play at home, get out of our shop, don't play things here.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's, they pushed more towards this, no, we'd like to sell you things, but we don't have to be responsible for your fun.
Now,
and I think they've backpedaled on that now, and it's starting to go back towards what it was. And do you know what? If they really push back and back and back to where the golden age of Games Workshop, when we were 15 to 20, and it was a thriving thing, I think they could get back there and it could become positive again.
It certainly sounded that way as we were talking to them. She's like, just bring this, or you can play with these things.
Yeah.
And
well, there were people playing in there with half-painted stuff, which was nice to see.
It became the Gaming Club Network, and this is again something that's changed the feel of Games Workshop. The Gaming Club Network kind of took over from the store, and the store became a thing where they were just selling stuff and they would pass you on to a Gaming Club Network. Now, in September of last year, September 2015, the Gaming Club Network ceased its affiliation with Games Workshop. They are no longer tied. I think we're now seeing the return of games to the store, and the store becoming more of that hobby centre, as I mentioned hours ago now, as opposed to just that place where you go to buy things.
Yeah, it very much, like you say, it moved into being a point of sale rather than anything else.
And if it's just a point of sale, if it's just a place where you go to buy something, then Games Workshop retail stores will die.
Yes.
Because I can go in our town centre, and we are not a big town. We have a friendly local gaming store that we have mentioned. That's Stock Games Workshop. They sell the same stuff for 15 to 20% cheaper.
Yep.
I can buy the stuff online for 20% cheaper
and have it turn up at your house.
Yeah, and it arrives and it's there, and I don't have to leave the house. The thing that I would buy stuff in the Games Workshop store because I know this wasn't everyone, but it was somewhere you could go to talk to knowledgeable people, to immerse yourself in the hobby, to meet people, to play games, and then you buy some stuff while you were there. Because if they went, you're doing this, I'll help you stick it together, or you want to paint them this way, I'll show you how to do it. We've got this new base and stuff, why don't you try this? Oh, cool, do you want to buy some so you can do the rest of your army? It generates its own momentum. I liked the staff. The staff felt more like my friends. They weren't, because they were there. They were being paid to be nice to me. But it was a community thing. And once you remove the playing of games,
you've lost a level of that.
You lose that, and then why spend an extra 20%? Why go to the shop?
This falls back to us being sort of slightly antisocial geeks kind of thing, or just socially anxious in a lot of respects. Which is a very broad spectrum, especially when we were young, because being a geek wasn't a good thing back then.
I think we've grown out of it now.
Yeah, now, but as a kid especially.
Yeah.
And I look at the Games Workshop the same way as I looked at my old job working at a library in a school. Those places were sort of safe havens a little bit. You go there, you've got to know there are people playing, same way as Board Game Convention was actually. There are people playing the same game as you know how to play. There are people, the staff, who you feel safe to talk to about something and go, I don't understand how this model works, can you help?
Do you know what it is? It's guaranteed common ground.
Yes.
Which is very hard to find when you are into a niche hobby. The rise of online retailers has happened during the time, because back when we were kids, Mum, I want a rhino to carry my Space Marines in.
Yeah.
They couldn't go, alright, but I'll go online and get it for you cheaper.
Yeah.
That wasn't really an option.
No.
And yes, you had this wonderful community that you could go and partake in, and while you were in the shop you could go, I've got some money, I can buy a thing because I want it, and you had all of this. And I think the rise of the internet has played a part in this.
Yeah, certainly.
Skynet would be proud, but I also think that Games Workshop at the same time, while they had this horrible opposition to their stores, really then took the wrong they put the wrong foot forward with trying to deal with it.
Cut tables, cut staff. That's the other thing that's really noticeable. Much staff they've.
Well, this is the thing, because it used to be like I was 12. I wanted some Eldar for Christmas. I told my parents they could go into the shop, ask the friendly local Games Workshop employee, the Flugui, if they could what they had, and the Flugui would help them. They'd puzzle it out. You will say to someone, I'd like you to go to Games Workshop and buy me one of these. And they will turn up at Games Workshop and it will be closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have attempted to do this podcast on 2 separate occasions before. And what happened, Aaron?
Yeah, the store was closed on both occasions.
Yeah. Once, because it was a Sunday.
A Sunday, yeah.
They're open on a Sunday, our local store now.
But it's a weekend.
I know. Right, it's a retail store.
What? You shut on Tuesdays because no one goes into hobby stores on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And
apart from us today.
Yeah, and I don't know, on a Wednesday maybe, or a Thursday, or whatever whatever day you're not going to be busy.
And the other occasion, because the only person that works there happened to need a holiday. Funnily enough, those things you're legally allowed to have, and they didn't think it was worth actually hiring in a temp or somebody from another store to cover for her.
No. So the store just closed. No sign of this on the outside of the store. The only place that it said this was on their Facebook page, which also at the time on the left-hand side where you can put your shop hours told me the shop was open.
You can't run a business like that. You need multiple people in a store to keep open for an extended period of time to stop them getting worn out.
But there's all sorts of weird
business practices.
Yes, now actually that brings me on perfectly, because as we're having a bit of a whinge about weird business practices, their refusal to have any kind of, hey, look what's coming out, let's get excitement going because we've got a change coming up. No. What's the next codex coming out? Don't know. Did you run the store? Yeah, I don't know. What's happening with the rules? Are you going to change it?
Can I offer you an insider's peek?
Yes,
peek behind the meaty curtains of Games Workshop's release schedule. When I started working there 13 years ago as a young elfling, myself and the other elflings, we would know in advance what was coming out. There'd be a sort of thing that you weren't supposed to let people know more than a couple months in advance, because they might get distracted by the shiny thing and not buy money, but spend money in the meantime. Things like a new edition of a game, so a new rules revamp, new box set, etc., were known 3 to 6 months in advance. Now, I said we talk about Warhammer Quest. Warhammer Quest Silver Tower came out a few weeks ago. It was announced a week before it came out. How in the bloody hell, as a retailer, do you generate momentum and excitement and anticipation for something that's coming out in a week? I remember big release days, when we'd release, say, a new game of that sort, a new one-off game, or a new edition.
Or new army release, perhaps, as well.
More popular new army release. We'd have competitions, we'd have lots of pre-orders, we'd have people waiting outside to come and pick stuff up. We would make it into an event. We would run a masterclass. So, this new Space Marine tank's come out at 1 o'clock on the day. This staff member's going to run a workshop on how to build it, and then we're going to have a giant tank battle at 4 o'clock when the glue has set. That kind of thing. They can't do that now because they only find out officially a week in advance.
You can't plan for that.
This shit gets leaked on the internet anyway, Games Workshop. I don't know if you've checked the forums. They have these things on the internet where people talk, and people know roughly what's coming out. Some people just make stuff up for a laugh. If you ever get bored, just go on one of these things and tell them that there's new Sisters of Battle Plastics coming out next.
People lose their shit.
They do, they explode with delight.
They're bringing back the squats, Brian. I've heard that numerous times over the years. Space Wars.
But actually, no, there's some very reliable rumours and things. They don't tell people in advance. Now, I play Malifaux. You may have noticed. I can go on their website now and look up the Malifaux release schedule all the way up until September. It is currently the beginning of July. I've got 2.5 months worth of releases there. I can plan my purchases I can get excited. I can read up the rules. I can start proxying models for the things I want to buy. I can pre-order now for stuff I want in the future.
Also, you can go on there and look at their Monday previews and see stuff that's coming out in the new book,
which isn't out for months.
Yeah, but do you know what? That makes me go, "Ooh, I want this book." Ooh, stuff. Ooh, things. So if they went in 2 months' time, the Blood Angels are coming.
Yeah.
Have a look at some models. You'd be going, fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, you might not quite sell as many Blood Angels things as you've already got. Or actually, people might go,
well,
I get them now before they put the price up because the new edition's coming out.
Yeah.
There's so many things they could do. So many little adaptations to this fucking stupid rule that really does my head in.
But who's going to go... If we all decided now, let's all get back into Warhammer 40,000. I went out and I went, right, I want this, and spent £200 on a brand new army, and then next month they released the new codex and a whole bunch of new miniatures to replace what I just bought.
I'd tell the game system to fuck off.
I would throw a hissy fit, the likes of which you guys have seen, sadly. But the people at home, it would become legend unto them and their descendants if they were to see such.
If you've ever seen the angry man on YouTube with a guitar that does something wrong and throws a fit, that's fairly accurate.
Yeah, I just it's almost like they don't trust their own customers to know what's coming out. It's really odd. Yeah. I find it really strange. And
I mean,
it's not just their customers, their staff members.
Everything. I mean, can you think of any other company at all that does the same thing? You can't have this, secret things that we're going to go, haha. 20 years ago, when no other fucker made anything that was remotely even close to your godlike empire, fine. Now, Malifaux, I can buy a starter box for an army that comes with shit all. I've got 3 jet bikes and a tank, 50 quid. I don't get any rules. I don't get anything useful at all. For 50 quid, I can go out and buy a starter set for Malifaux, the rule book, and an extra model.
Yeah.
And I've got the equivalent of a 1,500 point army and the rules for it.
I do like GW does offer good value in its starter boxes. The Age of Sigmar starter box and the Dark Vengeance starter box, that's £65. Don't buy it from them, buy it from somewhere else for about 55, and they're not that bad.
No, but the thing is, if you don't want to collect the 2 armies that are in it...
Oh, they're pointless.
Well, this is the thing with the Age of Sigmar one particularly, is you're not collecting that army. You're collecting whatever you want.
Right, Malifaux, War Machine. If I buy a model, I get the rules with it.
Yeah.
Games Workshop, I've got to buy unit Terminators. Right, I need the codex to use this and the rest of the army.
Yeah.
Codexes are averagely £30.
Yeah.
I might want to use one of their really cool new formations that they've got for 40k now. I'm really excited, really, really cool. Cool, so I need the supplement book that's 25 quid. I've just spent £60 on books without any models.
Plus the rulebook is 50.
Okay, so it's £110.
The hardback rulebook is 50.
Do they do a softback anything anymore?
No. They do some of the supplements for Age of Sigmar and softback. It confused me, but it was cheap.
But yeah, so
Aaron looks really sad.
There's £110 worth of books just to play the game. If I want to play Malifaux, I need to spend $12.99 on the tiny little Just Rules book and buy a model.
Yeah.
And that's everything I need to fucking play with it.
Yeah. Value, you got value for money with
And we discussed model pricing as well earlier, and going, actually, model for model, they're similar price to Malifaux and to War Machine and everything else.
Yeah.
Problem is, with Malifaux, I need 6 of the fuckers. I don't need 20 things and a tank something else.
This is the thing, though. I mean, a lot of people, the idea of a war game is more appealing. The idea of having big armies, big formations, big units.
Yeah.
Playing a war game rather than a skirmish game. I understand that. I had an orc army that had over 500 models in it.
Don't get me wrong, I very much used to love getting my army out onto the table.
Yes, yeah.
But what I've realised is I like competitive tabletop games. There is very, very little difference for me in moving my 1 mage over here and zapping someone than there was to moving my 10 Space Marines over there and shooting someone.
Yeah.
You're rolling more dice.
I'm using cards now, I play Malifaux. But well, you're rolling more dice, but so is that a good thing? The interaction's the same. I move one or a chunk of things here and do a thing. There's very little difference apart from the fact that it's cost me 10 times as much from this one bloke to those 10 blokes.
Yeah. Which is why, with Age of Sigmar particularly, they appear to have moved towards a more I know they already call them hobbyists, but a hobby perspective, you are now collecting things you can put out on display as much as you can, then have a little bit of a game with them.
Yeah, Age of Sigmar is. Will you explain this to me, Brian? Because I wasn't really paying attention at this point. I focused on the 40k and the rules when we went in.
Yeah, and I went and wandered over and lit the paints because that was boring me.
Yeah,
because we different parts of the hobby appeal to us.
You like models and painting, primarily.
Yeah, because it's kind of the thing you end up
doing
spending the most time on.
Aaron enjoys the background and the story.
Yeah.
And I enjoy playing the game and beating people because I've mastered the rules.
Yeah, so we like different things from the hobby.
Yeah. We do like different things from the hobby. Now,
I said, oh God, I'm doing that Games Workshop thing. Here's a bugbear of mine. Challenge rating 1. 12 hit points. Roll initiative.
No.
Okay. Games Workshop refer to it as the hobby, or the hobby. Mm-hmm. Are you a hobbyist? What do you collect? What your hobby?
Yeah.
The hobby is more than Games Workshop now. You were right when you said 20 years ago, when they were a high street presence, you couldn't just go on the internet and order all these different games and these pretenders to the throne that arrived.
They had the monopoly on war games.
Yeah, and now it's just like
they've got no. The thing they have is a big shop dedicated to their games that they could be using to play them.
A very expensive way of selling their product,
and they're not using it properly.
No. Yeah. And I think it's why we mentioned earlier the almost mass exodus of players after Age of Sigmar.
Mm-hmm.
I know all of the local fantasy players to Peterborough that I know from competitive gaming or anything else. All kind of just went, fuck you, I ain't playing this anymore. Yeah. It was very much a what the fuck Games Workshop, because they took their game away.
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar is a thing to do with your collected models, not a thing to do you collect models for.
From talking in the store, obviously I've only got their word to go on it, admittedly, Age of Sigmar does seem to be the more popular thing. I did ask, could you come in and play fantasy games still? Because you can still buy them from
Black Library,
that's it. You can still buy all the stuff from there until obviously they've got none of it left. She's like, yeah, of course you can. There's no issue with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. You're more than welcome to. But she said Age of Sigmar seems to be the thing. It's probably because we've got the stuff in store, but that seems to be the game people want to come in and play now.
Well, that's probably because
it's there.
It's there, and it's what they're selling and pushing and that kind of thing.
Of course,
it's just a very odd and like an odd business practice every now and then. That's quirky, that there might be an idea behind it, people might be trying things out. But we have a litany of really odd business practices.
It's one stacked on top of another.
That combine to make this really, really weird kind of what the fuck Games Workshop. Yeah. I mean, what they've done with White Dwarf, where White Dwarf went to being this kind of weekly brochure of here's a thing, because obviously if you're trying to publicise something for a month and you don't want to give away anything that's coming out later, then you then go to the weekly thing. They've gone back to being a monthly thing now. They've had a change at the top of the company. The company seems to be moving in a different direction, and I think it's swinging back to how it used to be. But it's a big beast now. It's ponderous.
Yes,
it's hard to steer. It's not like when it used to have 40 shops and could react quite quickly.
No, I mean, like Aaron said, it's got all of these things in place. Yeah. It's got a fucking monthly magazine that comes out every month. Use this to draw up some anticipation for stuff that's coming out next month, that's coming out in a couple of months.
It always used to have next month, and it would have a picture of next month Codex Eldar. It'd have a picture, and you'd go in. I mean, we wouldn't do it now necessarily as much. Well, we got excited about the Malifaux previews.
We did.
We did.
We were discussing those before we decided to discuss them on the podcast.
But do you know what? We all got excited about the Malifaux previews because it wasn't just here's the Arcanist stuff that Joe cares about. It was, here's something for everyone.
Yes.
And again, this is one of my biggest bugbears things with Games Workshops. Like you said, you buy an army, here's the new codex, everything's changed. If you're not playing the most recently released army, you're probably slightly behind on power. Because there was always this codex creep, this power creep going on, where whatever came out most recently had obviously been play tested against everything else, and so felt the most balanced or the most powerful. And it's bullshit. It's a game that's again 40k. If they turn out 40k into Age of the Emperor, and do the same thing they've done with Age of Sigmar, fine, because do you know what? Age of Sigmar is very much a casual game. 40k is not. 40k is still a competitive game. It's something that you
can still tweak little bits of your army.
You do all of these things to make it this massive cool thing. They've started adding in loads of elements of randomness more recently. Add that to the fact that you have this constant creep of power, and do you know what? It's not a fair system.
Yeah, the
nothing.
Games Workshop way seems to be it's like rock paper scissors. They build an army that's all rock to defeat the scissors that they just made, and then they go, oh, here's some paper army. Yeah, and they build that, and then they go, oh, and then here's a scissors, and they just keep sort of cycling through, and offering solutions to problems they've only just made, rather than not giving it to everyone.
And do you know what? That was a fucking genius business model back when they were the only company doing it.
Yeah, because it was like, oh, well, I should buy this army because
I better have that one. Yeah, you'd normally have 2 or 3 armies on the go because you wanted to use whatever was current and good.
Yeah,
even that, having something come out for each army at a time, you're engaging more of your customer base more continuously. This idea of actually what they're doing with Age of Sigmar is like that, because they go, here we're releasing all of the Fire Slayers, the new Troll Slayer type equivalent that they can get copyright. We know what you did, changing all the names of everything. We know why you did it. We haven't even mentioned it up until now because it's so fucking obvious.
You mean that they didn't change the Lizardman to the Sephiron just because it sounded better, Brian?
They release these. It's not just for Dwarf players. It's for Order players.
Yes.
Therefore, you're engaging a bigger chunk of your audience at a time. If you release a campaign book and you release models from different factions at the same time, which they seem to be doing a little bit, as well as keeping some elements of the Codex thing, you want your people coming into your store, thinking about your products, getting excited about it more consistently.
Yes.
Whereas at the moment, it's like, right, you Dark Angels player, here is 6 months worth of hobby fun. Come back in 5 years when we make a new Dark Angels Codex.
Yeah.
Go away now.
Being rules bastard,
We need to make you a theme tune. Rules bastard, bastard of the rules.
Changing 40k to how your armies are made. You now don't have to just stick to your normal force organisational chart. And I'm not going to explain what that is because you should fucking know if you've got this far in.
Is it a chart that lets you organise your force?
You know. So rather than
my first rodeo joke.
Rather than your HQ2 troops, you can now turn around and say, oh, I want to play this style of army that changes what your mandatory units are. I don't like that.
No?
As far as I'm concerned, it can fuck off because I like core armies. I've always been like that. I've never liked Forge World because it was stuff that was outside the norm, and no.
Okay.
I like the fact that you can have all this fun and change things around and do what you like. But I'm the sort of person that I don't like Brian doesn't like conflict and stuff with these games. It's a massive thing that bothers you where other people are going to be dicks about stuff.
Oh yeah. So I like really clearly written rules because it avoids the thing of someone going, well, actually, I think it works like this, and it not being clear.
And that's exactly why I never liked Forge World. Oh, I've got this in my army. Do you agree to let me use it? No. Oh, I'm not playing you then.
Okay, bye-bye.
Type shit.
Yeah, and then it's...
Whereas now, I think it'd be really good if Tyranids and Orcs joined up. Okay, if someone's letting you do that, that's fine. But I don't want to go into a situation going, can I please play with the toys in the way that I want to?
Yeah.
Which Age of Sigmar, again, more recent games, seems to be allowing more scope. More scope, not unlimited scope, because there has to be some kind of organisation.
Yeah, and
otherwise it would be madness.
Well, actually,
if you're going to be chaos, you just put wherever you like it. Let's be honest.
If I'm honest, that's one of the things 40k does now. You can have an unbound army.
Yeah.
So you take your force organisational chart that people have been licking for years to try and get the best out of, and you throw it out of the side of your Thunderhawk gunship. They have this thing now where you can have an unbound army and you can basically just do what the fuck you want.
Yeah, essentially, as long as you both agree to it.
But you
No, that's the thing. If you've got an unbound army, you can go, I am going to take 4 HQs and 6 heavy supports. That's my army.
Okay.
And you can do that as a legal army.
Yeah.
You don't get some benefits, like if you have a normal, followed my force organisation.
So I could have 6 Vindicators, giant heavy cannons, and a man with a mop to come along and just clean up after.
Yes.
Yeah,
genuinely, that could be your army.
World War One.
You can have this unbound army where you don't have to follow a force organisation chart. But if you're playing against someone that does, they get priority when it comes to claiming objectives. If you both are near the same thing,
yeah.
If one of you has followed a force organisation chart, you're better regimented, whatever. And
Well, yeah,
so-
I mean, the other side probably going to fall apart soon anyway with all the bickering and the infighting.
yeah, you get a benefit for following the rules, and it's interesting. It allows you to partake in the shinies of the new armies and stuff, more so if you play the Imperium, because it's always been Games Workshop's favourite child.
Yeah.
It slightly mitigates the whole other people got toys and I didn't, but not enough in my opinion.
One of the things I really like that Malifaux does, just because we haven't talked about it for at least 5 minutes, and I do so love it, is it has masters that are cross-faction. So you have McMorning, who is a resurrectionist on the side, secretly, but his day job is for the guild, and he can work with the guild doing things.
Yeah.
And that allows you to get an element of this in that you can sort of move between, your collection at least can move between factions.
Yes.
So I started off by buying stuff for Neverborn, then I bought Lucius and went, I've got some guild now.
Yeah.
And then I just ended up with bits of everything because, yeah, why not? Games Workshop's thing is, what they seem to be heading towards is we sell models,
Yeah.
not make game systems.
Yes.
We make really nice models and we sell the models and then we provide you with a framework to use them.
Yeah.
Other companies, I mean, I think of Privateer here. Privateer make a game,
Yes.
and they provide models for you to play the game.
Yes.
Privateer seem very much driven by the game
Yes.
itself. I would say something like Guild Ball feels that way as well.
Yeah,
Although it's got
definitely.
nice background and it's got nice models. It seems very, here is a game, we are doing this, it's all focused on the game, and then
Yeah.
everything else is
And
there.
then they've got some very clever writers who then merge that around it.
I could happily have walked out today with about £400 worth of Games Workshop models because I saw that much stuff that I thought was pretty and light and would paint and would collect. And then having some kind of safety net going, well, at least you can use them all together if they're in the
Yeah.
right half of the thing. It is quite good. But, for instance, what that wouldn't drive me to do, which is what I've done with Malifaux, I've painted like 20 models. I think I've painted about an eighth of what I've got. It's not pushing me to, because I'll go, oh, I need this thing to work with, or this thing will work
Yeah.
with this master, or this thing will work in this way. There is a balance, and I think sitting around the table, we've got that balance. We've got people who are really into the models and what they look like and would collect and paint regardless of the game.
Yeah.
We've also got people that would just game.
Yeah.
And if the game system isn't up to scratch, then it doesn't matter what the model's like because they ain't going to get used in the tabletop, so why would I buy it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what Games Workshop seems to do, they seem to be teetering. They don't seem to quite get the balance right to capture a wide enough audience,
Yeah.
which is why I feel that they're in trouble. Because who is Games Workshop's audience? Are they targeting the 12-year-old kid who's going to stick stuff together and then play games with it? Are they targeting the people our age who have now got those rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia? Are they trying to capture an audience with a video game and bring them into the store? Are they targeting collectors and then just giving them something fun to do with other collectors occasionally? And really it's all about the painting and the collecting. It doesn't feel like they're keeping the church broad enough. They seem to be focusing and then missing out on other things.
And rather than go, oh, do you know what? Maybe we should just widen our gaze a little bit. They've gone, no, we were looking at the people that wanted to play the game with Warhammer and we'd made a very good tournament system. Oh, but let's go focus on these people. Fuck the others. And that's the problem.
There's no reason with the resources that they have that they can't have really nice models and a really good game system.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because you know what? Other companies manage it.
I mean, Games Workshop are massive.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
They are
and
enormous.
And do you know what? This is the reason I get so angry with them when they do stupid things. Privateer Press makes stupid decisions sometimes, and I go, yeah, fair enough.
You're a little company still learning, bless you.
Well, yeah, they're not really little anymore, and they're not really learning anymore, but everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Malifaux. Oh, I've got nothing bad to say about Malifaux. Games Workshop, you have all the resources ever when it comes to making a bloody miniatures game. Do you know what? You've got all the bloody experience ever as well. Why is it so hard for you to make something that's decent, inclusive, and does all things right?
Yeah.
Because you've done every single bit of it correct in the past.
Yeah.
There have been times where you've made the best system ever for playing games.
Well, you've brought up some brilliant lore that really makes the universe seem brilliant.
And you've made these amazing models that have made people that don't want to play the game go, I want that just because it looks nice.
You've tapped into your staff who are passionate about it and got some great tournaments going and some really...
Or great hobby events.
Yeah. I know we're saying sort of broaden, but you need to focus those talents a bit more.
Onto making something cohesive.
The game system for Age of Sigmar needs tweaking. It's very much just a... What can I do about?
It's casual.
It's casual.
That's
it's fun.
fine.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
to be fair.
I have nothing against casual games.
No, me neither. It was a fun little system. But if you wanted it to be competitive as well, you need to have something in there to make it competitive.
The thing is, they've turned what used to be a favourite of tournament players. And tournament players are a small percentage of your audience.
Yeah.
Joe, you're in the minority.
Yes.
But there are also people that spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Often in one big whack. Often at odd times of the year, like summer when there's tournaments on.
Yeah.
As opposed to at Christmas where you make most of your money.
Yeah.
Again, they just need to keep the church broad. Is it just a case that we're not the audience anymore? That
Quite
being
possibly.
30-ish,
Yeah.
that now it's no longer for us? Is it really something that we've left behind?
I was just about to go, yeah, probably, because we've moved on to other things.
But
then I looked at the prices. I remember the prices. I went, okay. I mean, I'm enjoying I'm enjoying the lore system for Age of Sigmar. It's some things I like. Warhammer, I enjoyed it when I was at 40k. I enjoyed it when I was a kid, but looking back at it now, it's a bit bum, to be honest. But as a teenager, I probably would. I'd still probably lap that up and enjoy it in things. if I happen to have children who were playing this system and they came up to me and went, I want to buy a little army, and I'm only saying little.
Daddy, I want some Space Marines.
Space Marines. Let's have a look how much that is. £60 for that, and then the books. You could fuck right off. And then I would boot the child out of wherever I was, and then never speak to them again.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford that as a parent.
This is it. Now, like when you said, are we just not their audience anymore?
Because I worry that this just comes across as a bunch of sport millennials going, why is this not for me? I want everything to be about me. This thing isn't for me. It has no value.
I think we've kind of you've argued that it's not for competitive players, which is fair enough. You have argued that it's for modelers and things like that a little bit.
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar, yeah. I mean, but I'm talking about Games Workshop as a whole. I mean, because I don't feel like it's targeted at me anymore for any reason.
I can't see who it is targeting that though. That's the problem.
The thing is, if you look at 10 years ago, it was targeted because kids could come and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the tournament players enjoyed it, which are people that are our age and like this demographic. And I used to know loads of people that would go in, buy stuff, only have it because they looked pretty.
Yep.
Or went in and bought the books. They didn't want to play the game, but they loved the universe and stuff. Yeah. And they hit all of these demographics, and now they seem to have just gone, oh, we don't really know. We're just pissing into the wind trying to find someone that's interested.
Aren't they? They're flailing, and it's odd and it's weird, and you get. We see the business end of that. I mean, having been in the company and seen how it changed, part of the reason I left is when they started shifting to this no warning of thing. And it's when they shifted to a month, not to a week, which came later. How do you engage people? A hobby is, by definition, something you spend your spare money on.
Yeah.
If I'm not excited about one hobby, look around you in this room. I have plenty of other things to spend my money on.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by
walls.
I was going to say a thousand books, 1,000 DVDs. My board game collection was here. We've been pushing 50 board games, and I only bought my first board game 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I've got other things. I'll find a different game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if Games Workshop don't want my money as someone who generally
has it to spend, really.
Yeah. You point to me and say, Brian likes the models and the miniatures and the painting. Yes, I do, but there's no way I would have over 100 Malifaux models at this point if I was just building them to paint.
Yeah.
I would have 30 really, really nicely painted ones.
Yeah.
That I'd have picked and chosen from across the range. As it is, I've got those 30 that I think will be nice, plus another 90 to make them work.
Yes.
And it fuels my enthusiasm for going out and buying more stuff. Every time we play a game, I'm thinking about, we're talking about, we're engaged in that particular part of the hobby.
Yeah.
And therefore, I then go home and I'll just have a look on their website and go, oh, that's a really nice model, I'll buy that. And this is that different approach. There's models and painting and collecting.
Yep.
There is gaming and hardcore competitive gamer kind of things.
Yeah.
There is fluff. Aaron was excited and interesting because they changed the world up a bit and it was different.
It was.
Sorry, you said Aaron was excited and interesting.
How interesting. But he's normally really dull. He's just normally quite blank.
But today he showed some signs of life.
And it worries me when they turn around and go, actually, no, we're refocusing just to be all about the models and then everything else comes from the models. It's like, yeah, okay, that's a nice kind of almost idealistic way of, we started in the 70s and 80s when it was all about the models. But you built a name for yourself by diversifying and doing other things and expanding upon that. And they seem to be taking backward steps. Why should Games Workshop listen to a bunch of whingy people like us? Well, we're not alone.
No,
You've mentioned other people that are dissatisfied with Age of Sigmar. I think of all the people that I mentioned at the beginning who I know through Games Workshop. I can add more people onto that, other friends. None of who, I don't know anybody now that's a regular Games Workshopper.
Again, that could be an age thing.
Yeah, you would expect there to be a drop-off, but I'm less involved in my hobbies than I was as a child, but I'm still engaged in them.
Yeah.
Why is all the time and money, and it's been quite a lot of time, and even more money, that I have invested into, say, Malifaux, why has that not been in Games Workshop? Given that in our gaming group, it is the one thing that we all have in common, or had in common at one point. It's quite odd, isn't it, if you think about it that way? We've all kind of moved away from it, and it's kind of shifted its focus away. And I feel it's excluded us.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was going to say. It's pushed us away. I don't think we've moved away from Games Workshop. I think we feel pushed out, whether it's by pricing, changes in direction.
Yeah. I mean, at the age of 30, I'm not going to be going into that shop and playing a game on a Saturday.
No.
Or on a Thursday gaming night. It's not what I want. But if I do go in and there's something going on, I go, oh, that's interesting. That reminds me. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's quite good. Oh, you're doing that. That's quite cool. Oh, yeah, if I buy that, I could do that to Joe and he'll cry into his bit. These things have a wider effect than just the people that they're aimed at. That's all I was sort of trying to say.
Yeah, no, that makes a fair sense, yeah.
And this approach of models, not games, is interesting to me because it seems to be excluding certain types of people.
Hi.
Well, hello to us around the table.
Yeah.
But I think Games Workshop do need to change their approach. You know what we haven't really talked about? The models themselves. We're kind of running out of time. But, you know, as I said, £400 worth of stuff I could have picked up today.
Yeah.
Interestingly, this is where one of the things has differed slightly. Because you went in and go, oh my god, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. I went in and went, I like that. And then I went and looked at some of the old models that I remember going, I wish they'd update this. Do you know what? I was very underwhelmed with the models.
All of the 40k stuff just completely underwhelmed me. I was far more
Apart from that
interested.
giant dude with the tank tracks, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. But he's been out for a while, apparently.
Yeah,
the things they've been doing is bigger, better, shinier, massive giant things, giant treemen, giant plague monsters, giant lizards with things strapped to the top of them.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
So, don't get me wrong, I love big, gribbly, horrible things.
But you also need some appeal to the troops and the smaller things.
No, I just think most of their big, gribbly things are fucking shit now as well. I don't... Like when we were going, oh, look at this, oh, look at this, oh, look at this, look at all the giant monsters along the top.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in there that made me go, wow, I want that.
No, I
The
did.
big
Yeah, I
Celestia
did as
demon in the
well.
cabinet, I like. It's a 412 model,
Okay, yeah.
but I like that.
I don't 100% think, because we didn't see all the models fully painted, and it's probably credit due to the person who painted them, but I noticed, looking on the boxes and looking at the pictures online and stuff, I went, these models are a bit wank these days, aren't they? Going into the store and actually seeing them painted up and built, I was like, actually, He's not half bad. I quite like this.
We have to admit that, especially the way things are going at the moment, we are living in a society where less and less people have the money to spend that amount of money on a hobby.
Mm-hmm. Especially when that amount on a hobby can get you and your friend a Malifaux box each and a rule book and all the stuff you need to paint it.
And this isn't even going into comparisons with video games, with other hobbies for kids.
Yeah.
Going in there and going, right, me and Joe, let's get tournament legal 40k armies and start playing 40k and get the books and stuff. We could each probably have bought an Xbox One and an exclusive game to go with our PS4s. Yeah. We could buy a next-gen games console for the price of really, really getting into these things.
Do you know what, actually?
Which is great for them if they can sell it to you, because they're making a lot of money, but
it's not for
an
the
investment.
average person. Yeah.
As a retail store being a box that you go to be enthused about the hobby and have some stuff sold to you, or to buy the stuff you want, I don't see how that's viable when, if you're talking about spending 300 quid in the store, or buying it online and saving 20%, you've saved 60 quid.
Yeah, and do you know
60,
what?
60, that's a lot of money now.
Yep.
That's a brand new Xbox One game or a PlayStation 4 game.
Or the whole of a model.
That's the starter box on top of what you're buying.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what...
And delivery.
Yeah, I don't understand what these stores are doing now.
Going
in and picking the thing up and licking it and pressing it against your beard, hiding it down your top and walking out with it. Those things are all doable in the store, but they don't seem to have a large selection of things. There used to be a time when everything that was brand new got painted up and chucked up.
Yep.
Whereas you couldn't really tell from looking in the cabinets what was new. You could see what the staff were into.
Yeah.
That's good to go, I really like this and I've spent loads of time doing this, and having that hobby example, that's person to live up to when you're 12. I want to be just like the part-timer because he's got 6,000 points of Space Marines.
Yeah.
But it's not showing off the brand new stuff.
But again, that's because they've cut back on all their staffing levels and all their everything else. So you've got
you can't expect one person to paint
the painting
all of the
time is now pooing time because you have to kick everyone out.
Yeah.
You have to cry a little bit about being really lonely.
Yeah.
Because that must be a really lonely job. It must be a really kind of...
Especially with the...
depressing thing, especially with like sales targets looming over your head. Pressured,
reduced customers as well. They're doing something wrong,
and this is not just us.
No,
so just to round off, then Games Workshop's shares peaked back in 2004, and then dropped. They reached a similar peak, not quite as big, back in 2013, but they're currently sitting at a 5-year low. So the Games Workshop shares are now sitting at their lowest for the last 5 years. The company's been in trouble before. It will probably get into trouble again, but it's actually it's at the bottom of a pit.
Yeah.
It had another profit warning in January, from which again stock prices are not the be all and end all of working out how a business is doing.
No,
but it's a very good indicator of their health in the market.
Yeah.
Putting on my business wanker hat for a second, sitting there at a 5-year low, a year on from relaunching, if not your biggest game, probably the name that is most synonymous with you, Warhammer, and spitting out game after game after game in the tie-in stakes. That's not a good place to be.
No.
And I'd be sad if Games Workshop went. I don't buy their stuff, but I pop in for glue and super glue and liquid green stuff, and I bought some washes and brushes, and I bought a hobby box from there the other day that cost £40.
I wouldn't be.
No?
I am...
You're a callous, heartless, non-sentimental bastard with a heart of basalt. Rules bastard, bastard of the rules.
Yeah, now, no, do you know what? I think you might recall, I've been saying this for years. I am just waiting for Games Workshop to finish dying its slow death.
Yeah.
I would miss that. I like their IP. I like a lot. As I said, there were models that I thought were glorious.
Don't get me wrong. I would.
There was a Ankylosaurus thing with a hat. It was amazing. the new Nurgle stuff.
Yeah,
I think is absolutely glorious in a disgusting, horrible, farting out your own intestines kind of way.
But I have to admit, I like the models. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, you're very much... You like the models. like with Malphite stuff, I like how they are, but the simplicity of them occasionally, easy to paint kind of things. Whereas they're marketing towards obviously making detailed, complex models that you can really get into some details and stuff on, which I quite like. Because I looked at... See, I used to like the Space Marines because of their simplicity, because I'm a crap painter. So that's what I used to like them. And I looked at them now and I went, because my tastes have changed, I've gone, yawn. This is just dull to me now. Whereas I was enjoying the Nurgle, I was enjoying the other models I was looking at. I was like, it's quite cool.
They're bolder ranges. Some of the new stuff is bolder, and that's the Nurgle. They've really pushed it, and they've gone into a sort of extreme direction where they hadn't really gone before.
Yeah,
a Space Marine's a Space Marine, and it's been the same since I was 10.
Yeah,
and for some people that's comforting. For some people, if I was 12 and seeing a Space Marine for the first time, I'd get exactly the same feeling as I did when I saw a Space Marine for the first time, because it's a Space Marine.
Yeah.
But you talked about their worlds being stagnant. Although they're shifting focus, I think in the same way, that in a similar way, they're still slightly stagnant. They have all these shops and they just sort of carry on doing shop things. They have all this IP and they just kind of do stuff with it. There's a lack of sort of... What are they doing to really excite people?
I think as well, actually, this is a part of the reason I like the models. I feel they're stagnant now.
I think, just to summarise it, and I'll summarise what I think, and you can just disagree, chip in, amend as necessary. Games Workshop, to me, I have a lot of affection and love for Games Workshop. Wouldn't have spent all this time talking about them if I didn't care. Games Workshop, to me, as I say, I have a lot of affection for. I would like, as I said, I wanted to go into the shop with a slightly grumpy hat on and then go, but actually it was amazing and this was happening and this they were doing this and this, and I wanted to buy something. I bought 2 paints, 2 pots of wash for £1 million. It seems to me like a sleeping dragon. And as we know, what do dragons sleep on? They sleep on treasure.
Yeah.
And it's a sleeping dragon, and it's got all this treasure that it's asleep. It doesn't even know it's there. It's got coming up for 40 years worth of ideas, background, little throwaway asides that stimulate people's imagination and blossom into whole armies. It's got 40 years of people playing its games. It's got 30 years of novels and tie-ins and all that kind of thing. That you can't buy that kind of depth and breadth as well to a setting. It's probably the most developed science fiction world and fantasy world in the world. Use the word world too much there. You know, the amount of time and effort put into it probably far exceeds any other imaginative exercise that I can think of. And this dragon is asleep, and it doesn't know that all this stuff is there. And occasionally when it's asleep, it shifts and it moves. A little bit of treasure is dislodged and scatters, and it falls in front of us, and we go, oh, that's quite nice. That's quite good. Or as Joe might, oh, no, I don't really like that bit. That tiara, that tiara's not the nicest thing. But maybe, just maybe, if it shifts in a different way, a magic sword might fall down and Joe would be excited.
Like the axe that rends reality.
Yeah, that was quite cool, actually. And it needs to wake up and stand up and look at the treasure it's got and start doing something with it.
Yeah, it does.
Because otherwise, it's going to wake up and the treasure's going to be worthless because there's going to be no one there to share it with, because everyone will have moved on.
Yeah, I think that sums it perfectly. They need to tap into the history. They need to use the passion the staff have got for things more. They need to use the fact they've got an actual footprint on the high street more. They need to just bring all their things together and remember, like you said, that sleeping dragon, wake up, look and go, wow, I've got all these things, let's do stuff with them.
Excellent. So what we'd like to hear now, after hearing us waffle on about this for a long, long time, we'd like to hear what you think about Games Workshop. What are your opinions? Are there any really active Games Workshop players or hobbyists out there who have heard something that we've said and gone, but you could do this or you could do that? Because we have drifted away from it. You know,
we're not as in the loop as we once were.
No.
And as I said, it's coming from me, at least, a position of wanting to be interested.
Yes.
Wanting it to surprise me, wanting it to do something cool, but it's just not doing it. So if you've got a different opinion, if you agree totally, it's always nice to be backed up. That's always lovely. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for Critical Twits. You can find us on Twitter at critical_twits. You can find us on YouTube and comment there. So please, we'd love to hear what you think, because if you can come up with something interesting or a different angle, we may be able to revisit this topic with our minds changed or at least tweaked.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So thanks very much. I've been Brian Ennis.
I've been Aaron Ravinsky.
And I've been Joe Lewin.
We have been the Critical Twits, and we will continue to be for many years to come. Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Yay.
I don't think Aaron's as enthused as he used to be.
We will continue to be the Critical Twits. And we'll find a new enthusiastic
Aaron will be that guy we knew. Thanks very much for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.